Felicitations! It is me, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast where I talk about things I've done, things I'm interested in, and things I will be doing that are more interesting that may not happen actually. Sorry. It is Wednesday night, and I'm going to Comic-Con. San Diego, here I come. Oh my goodness, it's been so many years. Guys, I have to say that the tarnish might be tarnished. I mean, what? The warm off? What's the saying? It might have lost its tarnish. No, because tarnish is a negative thing. Whatever. I don't know if I'm just not excited about going. I mean, I'm a little excited. I mean, I know when I get there, I'm going to be really excited because it's Comic-Con. I mean, I worked for many, many years just to be able to have a huge party at Comic-Con because I was like, I love this place so much. And now I'm just like, oh, I have to leave my baby at home and I don't know how I'm going to manage my boobs. That's really what I'm stressed about because I'm still feeding my baby with my boobs. It is 18 months. Yes, I don't know. I don't know why I'm still doing it. I can't quit him. She can't quit him. She's addicted. She's an addict to my boobies. They are so much lower than they used to be. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. But I'm going to have to pump because I'm not bringing her down there because I brought her there last year for Comic-Con. And I remember, I don't know if I told you guys this story, but she was 6 months old. And I was doing a signing at the Mystery Science Theater booth with the other cast members. And we were going from the convention floor over to a theater offsite that was doing official Comic-Con conventions, which was weird. It was the first time I'd ever done that. It was a really cool space, but I didn't know they were like bleeding over into offsite areas from the panels that usually were on site in the convention center. So she was 6 months old. She was wearing a cute little outfit, a Kinga outfit, and we had to go across the street. And she was really good for the hour and something we signed. And I don't know if you've been to Comic-Con, but it is insane the way they lay it out. There is the huge, huge, huge convention center. And then there's a thin, thin walkway that crosses a 4-lane street. Then there's a trolley. And then you cross the huge, huge trolley tracks. And then you get into downtown. So it's like the ultimate congestion points. There's 2 of them. But everyone only uses one. The one in front of the Omni and the Hard Rock and everything. So essentially, thousands of people are being funneled into a small walkway with people giving away bracelets and telling you that Jesus is telling you to go to hell. For some reason, I don't really know why people find it necessary to be like, hey, Jesus hates Comic-Con. I don't know. I have to say that somebody's paying them because I can't imagine that's really somebody's weekend hobby. But who knows, man? This world is crazy. So anyway, we're going down the choke point and across the street, and my baby starts melting down. It had been like an hour and a half since she ate. And she's melting down, and we are almost late for our own panel. So they're not going to be like, yeah, Felicia, take 15 minutes and go feed your baby in a dirty, dirty bathroom. So I keep going, and she's melting down. So I, of course, I'm like, okay, let's just feed this baby. So I'm going down these little stairs to get to the road, the 4-lane road, where 400 people are waiting to cross and crush you. And my boob is hanging out because I'm trying to walk and breastfeed a child at the same time. It's in the middle of Comic-Con. And then my nanny, who was with us, Amy, who was watching Calliope while I was working, she was pushing the carriage, and the cops wouldn't let her push the carriage with us. She had to go down a different pathway with the baby carriage. And so we broke up, and I didn't have her phone. And so I'm freaking out in the middle of a 4-lane highway, and my baby keeps slipping off my boob, and my boob is just exposed. It's exposed, guys. And it's 120 degrees, and I think she's slipping off because, quite frankly, I'm slippery. And I'm still trying to keep up with Joel and Jonah and Hampton and Barron and everybody from the Mystery Science Theater thing, and not like decapitate my baby because people are like going by in Halo armor with swords and stuff, and I'm trying to put her. Let me just tell you, I've had finer moments and less sweaty moments and less stressful moments. Thank goodness I found Amy, and we reunited because she had my phone in my purse, and she didn't know we were going. I didn't know we were going. So that was the most stressful thing that's ever happened at Comic-Con. And then that night, Calliope was so overstimulated, but I'm not kidding. She was like, like rolling back and forth in some sort of like overstimulated, sort of like I'm on crack kind of way. And then that, somebody on my Facebook page had posted that I posted a picture of Calliope and me, because we were in matching costumes. And one person, and I'll never forget this one comment on Facebook, like, "Oh, you're a bad mother for taking your child to such a, babies need low stimulation. You're a bad mother." And of course, I was like, "Screw you, anonymous lady on my Facebook page. How dare you tell me I got to stay in my house with my baby for the first couple years?" And then I watched her on the bed, like just going, ha, 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 ha. And I'm like, oh God, I am. This is child abuse. So that was last year. Long story short, I did not want to take her this year because of that. And because she's like walking and I don't want to get her trampled, but she's not old enough to wear a costume and, have a good time. And this is the first time I'm leaving her, and I'll be back. I'm leaving Saturday night and I'm going to come back. So it's only 2 nights really, but I'm really scared and I'm really feeling stressed. And I know that I'm going to be stressed and not be able to sleep, even though I should be like, oh my God, I can sleep. I don't think it's going to happen, guys, unless I take like a Benadryl and have a beer. So clearly anticipating the best time ever. Whereas like 5 years ago, I would have been like, hey, I'm going to take a disco nap from 7 to 9 p.m. and I'm going to get up and party till 3 and dancing, one Cosmo dancing. That would have been me. But now I don't care. And there's no Nerd HQ this year. And, I'm not throwing a Geek and Sundry party. I'm not there anymore. So that's not to be had either. I have a couple of people who are doing some cocktail things that I might or might not be able to go to. Honestly, I kind of just want to be in my hotel room and watch HGTV, which I haven't been able to watch since my baby was born. Just like sit around in my underwear in a hotel room and just enjoy some TV and have some room service and some French fries at 10 p.m. and just watch some Law and Order reruns. It's going to be so good. Actually, I'm getting excited the more I talk about it, you guys. So if you're there, know that I'm having an okay time, and when I get there, I'm going to have a great time. I'm doing signings for Mystery Science Theater. I'm doing signings for Dr. Horrible. I'm doing the Great Debate Panel for Sci-Fi, which I'm super excited about. I've never been able to do with my schedule before. I'm also moderating the Magicians Panel Saturday night, and I'm doing a charity signing for the Brown Coats. So check my Twitter or Facebook for all my events. They're all on site this year. Sorry, you guys, without badges. But I'm not there as long as it's the shortest time I'll ever be at Comic-Con. I usually go Wednesday and stay through Sunday. And this time I'm like, nope, driving home. I could go to that fancy EW party, and I really kind of want to because you get to see the Game of Thrones cast there all the time. But I'm like, I don't want to buy a nice dress to go to a party and look at other famous people that I'm too shy to talk to. That's just me. And, it's kind of like a dream. And if there's one party that I ever actually like, oh, this is the fanciest party and it's super, super fun, the EW party at Comic-Con really is it. And it's really hard to get into. And when I got on the list finally, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, oh my goodness. And I would like borrow a dress from a friend and like get my hair professionally curled. And it's just too much work, you guys. I don't even remember when I last shaved my legs. Well, I shaved them for, taking Calliope to the swim park. Anyway, I thought this was going to be a super short thing because I didn't really have much to talk about, but clearly I can run my mouth any time of day, you guys. Not much I could talk about this week. I did read this great book called Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. It's kind of like a modern day Dynasty sort of meets magic. It's kind of cool. It's kind of that new sort of new wave fantasy, like Magicians, which kind of deconstructs magic in an edgy way. And I enjoyed it a lot. The cover's really cool, and I enjoyed it a lot. So that is something I finished. I also watched more British Baking Show and that design show that I am addicted to, the British one, Grand Designs. God, it's kind of schadenfreude because these people are like making their dream house and yet they're just like ruining their lives trying to renovate. And there's almost like a thing like, oh, don't do it. Don't do the addition. Don't do it. Don't renovate that theater. Don't do it. don't renovate that bell tower. Don't do it. You're going to die. You're going to get divorced. Don't do it. Keep doing it. I love it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I really need to make more time for reading scripted shows. And I have not been doing that. I barely had time. Last week we got all the fundraiser stuff out. So everybody who won a package of goodies is going to get them in the mail soon. We mailed out that rhino that somebody won and was signed by Joss Whedon and Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk. And, it was kind of fun sending stuff out. So that was great. And then I had a lot of pitch meetings, you guys, because I'm trying to sell stuff. And I did have some questions, that a lot of felicitations questions. Thank you guys. Sean Sandaluki, look, I guess he's now kind of my moderator person helping me with the podcast, collecting felicitations questions. He's so great. Keep using the hashtag on Twitter and we will be collecting those questions and answering them. I actually wanted, because I don't have a lot to talk about this week, I think next week I'll give a Comic-Con recap, and a lot of people ask me online, hey, can you break down how you pitch a TV show and what you do? And rather than get into that today, I think I'll save that for another one that's a little bit more in depth. And maybe I'll actually get like my friend Amy Berg or another writer, Hollywood writer, to come on and kind of help with that. Because, even if you're not pitching a TV show, it's actually a really good format when you break it down to explain any kind of creative thing to other people. Because a lot of people are like, ugh, I hate selling my thing. I just want to make it. Well, sometimes when you have to distill what you're trying to create into a document to pitch other people, it actually helps you distill the idea and make it simple for other people to understand, which makes it, in turn, simple to create and maybe a better product than if you were just in your own head about it. Not to say that everybody's input is great, because when you have 17 cooks in a kitchen, that's how you get like Transformers or, not dogging on that, but those kind of movies where you're like, did nobody think that this might not be a good idea? Yeah, they probably did, but there were 17 people and they kept just contradicting each other. So, anywho, yeah, maybe I'll do that next week. Sounds good. But I am going to answer several questions this week because there are a lot of them, and so I can answer more than one. Shadrach asked me, dude, I don't know what questions to ask, hashtag felicitations. I always come up with unintentionally inappropriate ones like, have you ever been in a street fight? Okay, no, Shadrach, I have not been in a street fight, and now you're making me feel bad that I haven't been in one street fight. I actually would love to be arrested one day, and I think I'm going to be arrested by going to some political protest and then just being like, I'm on the front lines, and you need to arrest me. I don't know. I don't want to be... I'd like to have a little bit of a record before I die, but not anything, just totally innocuous, nothing that would harm anybody or would be illegal. So really, it's just protesting is the only thing. Or maybe some graffiti. One time I did put my initials in some concrete and I tweeted it. Or I posted it on Instagram, and then a friend of mine was like, you need to take that down right now. That's illegal. You're going to get the cops. Somebody's going to call the cops on you. So I was sweating so bad, you guys, because I have never broken a law ever. I mean, I feel guilty when I drive slightly too long down the middle lane to take a left turn. And I actually did get a ticket one time doing that. So, or take a legal U-turn, which I kind of do all the time. But, so I was sweating. I was so upset because I really thought, this was many years ago, but I was like, hey, put FD here, find it later. And it was in a curb or something. And then my friend was like, you can be arrested for vandalization. Also, you're too high profile to be doing that. You can't be tweeting stuff like that. It was really my Logan Paul moment, you guys. So, not really. Ugh. So, the only other thing I've ever done illegal was I had a boyfriend one time and we were in a parking garage and he stole a traffic cone. And I was looking around like, oh my God, we're getting sent to the brig. And we had that traffic cone in the living room for so many years. And it was just a reminder of what a scumbag I am as a person. And then when I wanted to get rid of it, I took it back. Because I was like, I just borrowed it for 5 years. I really just borrowed this traffic cone. I didn't own it. I didn't steal it. It was for the decor. I just needed it there as a placeholder for when I got a sideboard or a credenza. So there you go, Shadrach. Never been in a street fight. I did take Kuk Sool Won when I was 14 years old. and I was very good at forms. Never did the fighting because I was a violinist and my mom was like, you can't break an arm or a hand or something fighting other people. I'm definitely getting Calliope and Jiu-Jitsu because I don't want her to be shy about like just taking some person and slamming her fingers into their throat or under their arm or some other soft part of them if she needs to defend herself. Or touching other people who are sweaty because honestly, I have a thing about it. Okay, that answered that question. Oh, I know what I did this week that was super glamorous, you guys. I got a night guard and I had to go in twice to adjust it because I got sensitive front teeth. And I talk like, hey, could you please turn the light off? Hey, Calliope, how are you? And she thinks it's so funny. Like, I kind of talk like Donald Duck with my night guard in. I don't know, you're not supposed to talk with it, but you know, it's too much effort to take it out and talk, I guess. Okay, next question. Let's see. Quick question. How do you avoid distractions when working from home and remain productive? For example, the siren song of the internet, Netflix, housework that doesn't actually need to be done, cute pets, everything. Hannah Jorgensen. Well, Hannah, you're talking to the wrong lady, man. I only operate on fear and deadlines. So unless I have a deadline, it's really hard for me to do pretty much anything. When I really need to get something done though, I will disable the AirPlay. I will disable my Wi-Fi, and I have, excuse me. I could take that out, or no, I'm not going to. I turn off the Wi-Fi. I literally turn it off, and I say, you know, there's this thing called Pomodoro method where you just give yourself a certain amount of time and you put a timer there, and once it dings, you can like do something else. And I've found, although I don't often use the timer, I will maybe sometimes put it on my phone and I'll be like, hey, let's just work 1 hour on this one project. And when it dings, you can check Twitter. And that has been super, super effective. Also, the days when I was writing my book, which is a super hard thing to get through, I knew that I had a fear of missing my deadline, or a fear of not getting it done, or a fear of not doing it fast enough so that I could rewrite it enough times to make it the perfect document that I wanted it to be. So I forced myself to literally, upon awakening, go and sit in front of my computer and write in my journal for 15 minutes, stream of consciousness, or on my computer. Sometimes I would just have a file that I was like, I'm going to write, you know, the most random things possible. And I'm going to keep writing. And it's, hey, look, there's a butterfly. And, ooh, wow, my ear looks really good today because I have an earring in it. Wee, I really like Frasier. You know, just, just vomit. And that sort of primed me to get my pages done. And for my book, what really worked for me, because there was, you know, it's word count, and I use this program called Scrivener, and you could set a daily word count, so you literally have a meter that you could fill up, and you're like, oh, 2,000 words today. And honestly, I did that for 2 months in a row, and I forced myself to sit in front of the computer for 3 hours every morning, uninterrupted. And if I was bored, I would just do that journal thing. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write in my book. I'm really bored. Maybe I'll go and play some Sims, you know, later today. I want chocolate. So I would just keep writing, and then I'd go back to my document. And that was really super effective, as is having the sort of like the time like 3 hours, and you can get 5 words done, and that will be your work. But you have to show up at a set amount of time and just sit here and even think about it. And then once I started doing the vomit thing, I worked my way up from 1,000 words to 2,000 words, and I was doing like 5,000 words a day at a certain point, because you kind of train yourself to flow. You try to just, it's kind of like that Comic-Con bottleneck, you know? Like, I think creativity can become a bottleneck, and then you only let out stuff that you think is the most precious stuff. But really, if you just let it all flow, you're going to get stuff that just surprises you. So that's my advice is to turn your Wi-Fi off and go somewhere else if you can't. There's a corner coffee shop in town where I wrote, you know, half my book, because sometimes I just couldn't get my work done in my own office. But, you know, it just depends. And honestly, you got to try it all. You don't know what's going to work for you. And if it just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's great. I know writers who their best work, they dictate whole books when they're walking through the woods and using their voice recorder on the iPhone. I've never tried that, but I really would love to, because I certainly if you can listen to this podcast, I don't think when I'm talking. And maybe that's what you need. You need that unconsciousness. The tireder you are and the less censored you are and the more creative you are. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago too. So, you got to know yourself. But I actually found out a couple months ago when I was trying to get a script done that I actually write better from the hours of 9 to 11. And so I felt like, I kind of have this private time to myself where I'm not prioritizing other people's needs for me. I'm prioritizing myself. And I just happen to work better from 9 to 11 p.m. and 9 to 11 a.m. or 7 to 9 a.m. So the only way you can figure that out is just try a bunch of stuff and know that once you find something, if you stick with it, you're really going to be able to blossom in a lot of ways. Blossom! You're just a precious flower. Meh. Great. Hannah Jorgensen. Good question. All right. Last question for today because I have to go pack and it's really late. Daneka Vargas asks, am I going to remember underwear? Oh boy. Daneka Vargas asks, hey Felicia, longtime fan, first time tweeter. Hashtag felicitations. My question is, for expectant mothers or women planning to be mothers, what books might you recommend? Oh, this is a really good question. Wow. Well, I think that the most useful book that I have ever read, first of all, you need to understand how your boobs work. And no matter what you read, it's not going to work for you. I mean, you really need to go to a class because your boobs you're going to learn so much stuff beforehand. And once your baby's there, you're going to forget all of it. So, there's a book called, let me get the name of it. Elevating Childcare by Janet Lansbury. And to me, this is the best book. It was recommended to me by my pediatrician as the one book that you should read. And she bases a lot of her philosophy on Rye parenting, which she is probably the most famous proponent of. She has this great podcast where she answers people's questions about parenting. And, Rye, I'm not an expert, so I urge you to do your research. But Rye parenting is all about treating your baby from birth as a person who is a whole person and respecting them and their body and their choices and their growth. So, there's simple things like really speaking to them as you're doing things. Like, I'm putting your diaper on. I'm lifting you up. I'm lifting you up now, not just picking them up from behind without telling them first. So they feel like they have agency and you have respect for them like another person who is an adult. And some people are like, oh, it's really extreme. You're treating your baby like an adult. I don't agree with that interpretation necessarily, and I don't adhere to everything, but I do think she has beautiful ideas about personhood and knowing that a baby is a person when they're born, and if you can give them respect for them, they can show you respect back. Simply for Calliope, she's been having tantrums lately, and a lot of the times I can just head them off by saying, hey, I see how you're feeling right now. You're upset at me. You're upset you can't do this. We can't do this because of this reason. And I'm not kidding. 60, 70% of the time, she will not be happy about it, but she will stop having a tantrum. And I think because from birth, I'd be like, I see that you're unhappy. I see that you're frustrated. And that's a real component that I've taken very closely from Janet Lansbury and Rye Parenting, is that you're supposed to acknowledge their feelings even if you're not giving them all of them. And it's really funny because if you are an actor, Meisner technique is a very famous acting technique, which I love. It works very well for me. And one of the first basic things you do in Meisner technique is you sit across from another actor, you hold their hands, and you say, you're looking at me. You're looking at me. That makes me feel self-conscious. That makes you feel self-conscious. Oh, that concerns you. Oh, that concerns me. I'm upset that concerns you. You're upset. That makes me upset. Okay, so if you ever watch, it's riveting. Believe me, it's just as exciting when I'm relaying it. Essentially, you're paying all your attention to the other person and acknowledging what you're getting from them as a feeling and expressing it in a way that they can read what they're doing to you. And it makes you be in the moment and not in your own head about your own performance. You're working off the other person and their impression of you and what you're doing to them in a weird way. So to me, it's always been the acting technique that's worked well for me. And if you read a book on it, it's really funny because the similarities between what Janet Lansbury says about acknowledging your child's feelings and saying, oh, you're really upset there, and narrating and sort of quote unquote sports casting what a baby is doing. Oh, you're picking that up. You're really trying to put that thing in that hole. Oh, you're frustrated about that. You'd really like some food. Having all those things is really similar to acting. So it's kind of something that I put on pretty easily. Some of the more extreme things are like never praise them about something because they'll stop learning if you praise them. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at that. I don't want to interrupt her, and I don't want to overly help her do things. I want her to find things herself, but I can't not say, hey, oh my gosh, you did that. So listen, parenting is about just having good intentions and putting your best foot forward and doing things for the baby versus doing them for yourself. I think that's kind of the heart of it. Anyway, Elevating Childcare by Janet Lansbury is one of my favorite. There's also an amazing book called Between Parent and Child, and it's by a doctor, a psychologist. And it's really beautiful the way that it kind of encourages the communication between a kid and their parents. I took some things from it, and it actually helped me as therapy. So it was really a beautiful way to communicate, teach you to communicate with a child. And it's kind of the similar thing to Janet Lansbury about how to talk to your kid and how to make them sort of open up emotionally and be accepting of all emotions. Those are two that I kind of felt the emotional part was really, really important. I also enjoyed a couple scientific books called The Informed Parent, a science-based research for your child's first 4 years. I really enjoyed a lot of those observations because they're based in scientific research, which when you are able to cite something specific, I'm like, oh, great. This psychological study says that it's better to do this versus this, I really enjoyed that book. And another book is called Bright from the Start, a science-backed way to nurture your child's development. So both of those books, one or the other might do. Don't read 5 million books. It's so hard. And then I also enjoyed this book called Montessori from the Start, The Child at Home from Birth to Age 3. I'm super, super into Montessori, and I kind of want Calliope, if she ends up going to school, to do Montessori study. I think it's one of those things like it really gets your kid to start working. It's like, hey, help me undo do the laundry. Help me undo the dishwasher. I literally will tell Calliope, can you go put this thing in the dirty laundry? And she'll take it and she'll put a dirty sock in the laundry. I'm like, great. Finally, I have some help around the house. She's 18 months. Anyway, I just love Montessori philosophy, and it kind of ties into what I was talking about treating a child like they're capable, because I think, a lot of it, at the base of it, I think children are more capable than they give themselves credit. We give them credit? I don't know. I'm tired. That's a cool one. Although there's a section in the Montessori from the Start, and it's a really dry book, so I wouldn't, if you're really, I would look at it a little bit before. It's a pretty dense, dry book, but if you read it in chunks, I always was highlighting a lot of really fun stuff in that. There's one section where it's like, when your baby is a year old, allow them to prepare food with you. Maybe think of getting a baby cleaver. And you might, quote unquote, want to dull the edge. I swear to God, this is in this book. Get yourself a baby cleaver. So basically, I bought a small baby cleaver as a joke. I did not dull the edge quite yet, but I'm definitely not going to give her a tiny baby cleaver. But I was like, okay, there's independence, and there's maybe a little bit too much independence for a baby to have her own baby cleaver. So Montessori from the Start is a good book, but it is pretty dense. So I would say that it's the least easy one to read. But if you just read 5 or 6 pages a night, you'll get through it. The last one is, everybody is going to recommend a different sleep book, you guys. I am the worst person about baby sleep. I let Calliope cry it out twice total, and she cried for 3 hours to the point where she almost passed out, and I took her out of the crib and I put her in my bed. So clearly I am nobody to talk about sleep training. I'm not going to condemn anybody for what they do, as long as you do it safely and considerately with your baby. There's so many techniques. I would recommend getting a book on it. I got a no-cry sleep solution book, which essentially tells you to kind of sit by your baby and kind of move out the room slowly but surely, but don't let them cry alone. That's the one that I kind of liked the most because to me, I couldn't let my baby cry. But honestly, there have been no studies showing necessarily that your baby crying is terrible for it. It just went against my instincts, and my instincts always rule what I do. So I just chose not to let her cry. And, she slept in my bed for 17 months and didn't let me sleep. So I don't know if that's the best solution, but the No Cry Sleep solution had a lot of interesting techniques there about getting them to sleep. Also, there are a couple of other books that are sleep oriented that I would recommend reading so you know your options. A lot of people do the timed thing where you put the baby in there and, you check in every 10 minutes and you're like, you're okay, but you have to stay in the crib, and they cry and then eventually they stop crying. It worked for several friends of mine, and that's totally fine too, It's all, what you just do the research and really make a conscious decision so you know that you have a sound basis for doing it, because it's going to hurt if you hear your baby cry. So just make sure you're doing the right thing so you don't have nightmares later. Because a lot of people told me that, yeah, I sleep train my baby. I still think back to those 3 days and I shudder. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Of course, those other people got a little more sleep than me. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up because I thought I was going to do a really short one, and I talked. So I would really appreciate it if you went to iTunes and reviewed my podcast. More reviews mean more visibility, which means more podcasts. I will talk more about television pitching, I guess, and I'm going to try to get somebody to come in and do a little guest thing and talk more about that, a writer or something, because it's always good to have different perspectives and all that. Please leave any questions with the hashtag Felicitations. Sean Sandalukaluk is being very nice and collecting them for me. And spread word about the podcast, because more listeners is good. It will allow us to have a bigger community. I will not be streaming on Twitch this weekend, but go to the Discord channel if you're a subscriber and go and chat with all sorts of other people. Awesome people are making recommendations every day on the Discord, the Felicia Day Discord, Chat Emporium. All right, I will talk to you guys later. See some of you in San Diego. Bye.